Alright everybody, welcome back to another video that will just be focusing on the electrical boxes, what they mean and how you can use them. So we'll show a little bit about the switches, the XOR switch, the AND switch, and the OR switch. That'll be the focus here. Other switches will be covered later on, like your RAN switch, your blocker, timers, things of that nature. But we'll focus on these four here just to make a quick video. So we'll start with the most basic one, your switch. It's really just something that has an on-off function. There's a power in, power out. You'll also see there's a switch on and a switch off. That comes from, you can do that from a memory cell. You can actually do it from a couple things, and we'll discuss that in a little bit or in a different video. But we'll just focus on the basic input-output. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take our test generator. We're going to run the power into just a blanket electrical branch here. So at least we have power here the whole time. So what I'll do here first is I will take the branch out. I'll put it into this switch, and I'm going to use these lights over here for my testing. Now normally your branch will be set to 2, which is not enough to power anything because you're going to need 2 for each light, so that's 6 power. You need 1 for the switch, so that's 7. So I should change this to 7. And as you can see, all my lights are on, right? So it's got to be your power into the branch into the switch has to be 2 times the number of lights, if they're the hanging lights, plus 1 for the switch. And that's what you get here. Switch on, switch off. Now, some people have bases that will have a door over here and a door over here. Upstairs, downstairs, whatever you want, right? And they want to be able to turn the lights on from different touch points within the house, right? Like you don't want to have to like scramble through the dark to find a light at the front door so you can turn the light on in the back, vice versa. So like how can we best do that? Well, that's with an XOR switch. And so how that'll work is instead of your output of your normal switch going into the light, it'll actually go into the XOR switch, which is what we got here. And then we'll just power this switch on. That's fine. Now we got power here. Okay, on, off, happy days. This needs to be set to 7 just like it is now so it can turn everything on. All right, and then we're gonna take the output from the XOR switch and we will tie that into the lights. There we go. So now if I turn this switch on, lights are on. If I turn this switch on, lights are on. Turn them off, off. Now the thing to know that if both are on, nothing is on. It can only be one or the other. That is the logic here. It can only be one switch is on, the other is off, vice versa, or else the XOR switch doesn't do anything. It's just the logic that's built into it. So that's your regular switch. That's your XOR switch. We'll kind of dive into the AND switch real quick. Hello, cargo. Within the AND switch, right, the AND switch is saying these 2 inputs have to be true for the power to pass through. This is your OR switch. It just means one of these things has to be true for the power to pass through, right? And so what is a good example of an OR switch? We'll set one up real quickly here. I had one in some other videos, but a good example of an OR switch would be, there we go. Would be multiple HBHF sensors trying to power one thing, right? So I have the HBHF sensor on this side. It tells me I'm green. I'm on this side. I was green again. I cheated a little bit, flew through the wall so you could see that. And then the output here would go and fire something else, right? So that's what your OR switch does. It just says if I find this statement to be true anywhere, then I'm good. And you could stack these, right? Like you could do 2 more OR switches, and then those OR switches can hit this OR switch, right? So you could keep stacking these up to make more and more AND statements or OR statements, just in an effort to keep building things up. So that's that, and this is your AND. your end switch, which is two things need to be true. What we're going to do is power with an end switch this turret. And what we're going to say is, well, the first input will be an HBHF sensor, because everybody's favorite thing to do is have somebody walk into their base unannounced and then get their face blown off. So there's your HBHF sensor, which will trigger part of it. The other part will come from... trying to think where I'd like it to come from. Here, we'll do it from here. From there. So one source is the power. So as long as there's always power running, half the equation is solved. And then once somebody walks within the range of an HBHF sensor, steps on a pressure pad, pushes a button, whatever, who cares, that'll solve the other part of the equation, and then your turret will turn on. The main thing to know is that the power that comes out of like an OR switch or an end switch or a switch, it's always going to match the maximum power in its input, right? So like for a switch, right? I need the input to be the switch plus the lights, right? So that's why it's 7. And there's only one input, so it has to be 7. On these, you have two different inputs, right? So like I'll use the end switch as an example. I have the HBHF sensor, which is really only giving me 1 power every time. And then I have the electrical branch, which is giving me 73 power because I'm using the power outside of it. So that means that my output on the power out will match the highest. So it'll be a 73 power output, which is why this turret turns on, because it only needs 10. And so that's important to know, because if you were to put this on like the branch outside and you only had 2 power going into here and you had 1 power from here, this turret would not turn on until you set that to 10. So just note that, right? Like the output power will match the highest input power. So whatever you're going to daisy chain to these things or whatever, right? Like, because I could technically daisy chain like 6 more turrets in here. Just make sure your output power matches the total power needed. So, and that's it. That's the walkthrough of these different boxes. So you got your AND switch, you got your OR switch, regular switch, and your XOR switch, and the little things that you can do with them. So cool. Like I said before, you'll find me here at the Clinic Modded PvE Revamped. You can join the Discord here at the webpage, look for Venom TTV, ask me any questions that you have on electrical components or challenges that you have, and I'll be more than happy to help. Until next time, I'll talk to you later, all you chads and chadettes.